preparing for this nice snowstorm or ice storm, whatever it decides it's going to be when it gets here. Hope you stay safe through all of that. I want to recap a little bit of what we talked about Sunday and tell you a little bit about what we have coming in the future here over the next couple weeks. So this past Sunday, we talked through the last half of 1 John 5. Of course, somebody would want to call me right now. Spam callers. We finished out 1 John chapter 5, talking about, first off, the confident faith we should have, how closely our will is aligned with that of God. And as we pray, we should have that confirmation of our wills aligning. And like a little bit of what we talked about would be that thought that might come of, well, it seems kind of selfish of God to only give us what we ask for when it lines up with his will. But as we discussed, I think the having our will aligned to his is the blessing. That knowing that he's not going to give us what we ask until we align our will to his is a blessing in that. That we would have that compulsion to push ourselves to seek his will and to not stop until our will aligns with his. That's better than any blessing we can have, anything, any material thing, or any of the gifts from God, having our will aligned to his. And so there's that draw to constantly have our will aligned. But when we're praying, when we're asking God for things, when we're seeking his face, and we keep hearing either no, but we keep asking the same question over and over and over again, or we're just maybe not hearing the answer. I don't believe that God doesn't answer. I believe sometimes we're not hearing the answer. But when we're praying for something and it just isn't lining up, what do we do with that? Do we ask if that is God's will or not? And I think we need to wrestle with that question of whether or not our will is aligned to his. And so I think, to me, one of the biggest lessons in Sunday's sermon is that push, that draw to align our will to his. And what does that look like for us? I know we talked a little bit about it, but we didn't really break down a lot of what does it look like to line our will up with God. It's one thing to say that, like, oh yeah, my will needs to be aligned to God. But what does that mean? What does that look like? I think we can look at marriage as a good indicator of what that might require of us. Jackie and I, we spend a lot of time together. One of our love languages is quality time, that we both share that. And so we do enjoy spending time together, whether it's just sitting on the couch, watching a movie or a show, or doing things together. Both of us would probably say one of our favorite times of being married was when we went to Italy together, just the two of us, and had vacation time there. Because we went on an adventure together, we got to share those experiences together. But it's been over the almost 10 years now that we've been married, as we've spent time together, as we've shared experiences, as we've talked, and then we've listened and we've heard from one another's heart. Our wills have aligned much more so than even that first year of marriage. And the longer we spend together, the more time we spend together, the more that we sacrifice for one another, the more our collective wills align toward one purpose, one goal. And that's the hope, that as we parent, as we spend money, as we invest time, that our wills would be aligned. Jackie and I, we tend to have similar passions in certain things in life. And the more that we engage in ministry together, the more our wills align even in that. And so I think as we think about, as we think about lining our will up with God, I think first and foremost, it's going to take us spending time with him. It's going to require us to hear from the voice of God, to listen to him, to hear his heart. Because if I'm the only one that ever talks in my marriage, if I'm the only one that ever shares my opinion, if I'm the only one that ever voices my desires, my passions, my dreams, then the only option would be for Jackie to align her will to mine, because I don't know her will. We know that God knows our will, but we need to seek his face, that we would know his will, and that we could align ourselves, our passions, our dreams, our desires to his will. Because like we talked about on Sunday, if we're going to line our will up with God's, there's only one will that really needs to change in order to line those up, and it's not God's will. He's not going to change his will to line up with ours. So spending time with him, worshiping him, spending time, whether it's in prayer, whether it's in worship, whether it's in just silence and solitude with him. Sometimes we just need to practice the art of being silent before God, not talking, not asking, not requiring anything, but just to spend time. Again, reflecting back to marriage, there are times where Jackie and I can be doing our own thing. She could be editing her pictures on the couch, and I'm there with my Kindle just reading. But we enjoy just that. We don't have to be talking to each other. We don't have to be interacting together necessarily, but just to spend time, or even just sitting silently. Just maybe we have a fire and we're just sitting there and relaxing, just enjoying the peace of the moment. How often do we do that with God? To just enjoy the moment with Him. I'd encourage you, if you don't have a regular discipline of that, to adopt it somehow, some way. Again, I'm not the sit in a closet kind of person. For me, it's like that, sitting on a couch with a fire going, or being outside sitting. Man, I can sit in wilderness for hours and not feel the same stress I would feel after 30 seconds in a closed space room or something like that. So it's going to be different for each of you. We were each designed by God in different ways and wired to approach Him and to interact with Him in different ways. And so I encourage you to learn what that is for you. What does it look like for you to spend time with Him, to draw close to Him, and to serve Him? So by serving Him, we start to learn a little bit more of His heart for us and for other people. If you haven't felt His heart for other people, then you haven't spent enough time with Jesus, because He will spend time, or His will come forward as we engage through service, and we should feel His heart for the lost, His heart for His people, as we engage in serving one another. So I think to seek that idea, to seek that oneness with God, is certainly a noble goal. If you don't already have a drive or a word or a goal for 2023, then man, that is a great goal, is to seek that oneness. I see Nikki ugly crying for 2 hours driving home, pouring her heart out verbally as you drive. Yes, certainly. That's a great way to align your will to God's, is just to be that raw and honest with Him. And so thanks for that, Nikki. I definitely agree with that. There are times where the Lord and I have just had some messy times. We've gone through some tissues together, and you feel that oneness when you leave that place of just pouring your heart out, because sometimes that's what we need to be authentic with Him, and not just act like we got everything together and everything's good and everybody's happy, but we need to pour that out. That's that oneness, and I would encourage you to passionately pursue oneness with God in this new year. If you don't get anything else out of 2023, if you're able to get oneness with God, you couldn't have had a better goal. So that's my encouragement. Pray for those who don't know Jesus. We talked a little bit about that, and how there's that sin that can be forgiven, or that doesn't lead to death, and the sins that do lead to death. I think that I'd encourage you to do your own study on that, but I really do think that was all about pursuing people who haven't quite encountered. Maybe they even grew up in church. That doesn't mean they've really encountered Jesus. But those that have authentically encountered Jesus and walk away, I truly believe there's not much hope for them, if any at all. So that's all I got for you in the recap. This coming Sunday, we will have our one and only Christmas message. I know in previous years I've always done an Advent series, and this year it just didn't work out that way, and that's fine. I'll follow the Lord more than my own patterns or desires. So we'll talk a little bit about identity and what Christmas speaks about our identity. And then Christmas Eve, remember, we don't have a service on Christmas Day on that Sunday. We will have our weekend service will be on Saturday night for Christmas Eve. We hope you'll join us for that. Then the following week, on the first of the year, we will begin our 40 days of prayer. And so I hope you'll join us for the 40 days of prayer. It's going to be a phenomenal time, a focused time of prayer. We hope you'll join us for that. And we'll be having some regular prayer meetings throughout that time as well. We'll hope you'll join us for as many of those as you can be there for. We'll do some prayer, some worship and prayer. We'll just wherever the Lord leads us, we'll go. So I'm looking forward to that. And then maybe after all of that, we will finish out our John series with 2nd and 3rd John. But we're just going to take that by ear. That won't be till mid-February at the earliest. So, yeah, that's what I got for you. I hope that your Christmas planning is going well and you're enjoying this season as you reflect on God's gift. And I hope certainly before Sunday and after Sunday, as you reflect on the Christmas story, it speaks volumes to the identity that God has spoken over you. Because Jesus came, it speaks so much about our identity. God cemented things about our identity in that pursuit. So join us Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Hope that we'll see you there. And if you can be in person, obviously that's always better. I love the fellowship of the family. But if you can't, you can always catch us here online. Have a great week. Be blessed. And hope to see you Sunday.